Hi world, welcome to Sustainable Archaeology at McMaster Innovation Park. Come on in and we'll tell you about and show you how we innovate. So, we're a facility that is designed to take in archaeological collections from excavations done in Ontario, mostly by private sector companies that do excavations ahead of development projects that would otherwise destroy those sites and all the materials within them, and they're working in compliance with the Ontario Heritage Act. So the materials come to us, we keep them and all of their associated information, and they then become a continuing source of new research, new ideas, the application of innovative technologies for getting more and more information from them on into the future. It is also a way of providing access to interested parties, and in particular to members of Indigenous communities, then this may be an important part of their heritage. Until now, much of these materials have been inaccessible in many cases, and now we've made them available, and we hope to continue to make them available on into the future for future generations who may have new questions and certainly will have new techniques for the analysis of archaeological materials. So that's what makes us sustainable archaeology, and it is part of a new approach to archaeology. It's not just about further excavations and continuing to accumulate materials. It's about getting more information and a better understanding of the past and past environments from the analysis of those materials. So here's an example of the kind of work that we do in sustainable archaeology. These are a series of soil cores that have been taken from an archaeological site. I have a PhD student, Beatrice Fletcher, who's doing this for her research. And she's taking these cores from sites, splitting the cores, and then they go through a core scanner, which picks up the elemental content. And the key to this is finding elements that are associated with particular kinds of human activities. And so what we're doing is bringing the traditional excavation of wide areas where we look for artifacts and features and record those as an indication of what people were doing, and bringing it down to a really small scale, where we're taking a very little bit of material and trying to extract as much information as we can from that gives us an understanding of the site, the distribution of activities, and what's happened there over time. And if it is of interest to continue to do an excavation, we would at least have a much better understanding of the site. But in many cases, we might be able to leave the site completely intact and just take the information that we've gained from the cores, which again ties in with our understanding of what is sustainable in archaeology. By leaving the site intact, it's available for future researchers to ask new kinds of questions, to approach it in different ways. And we haven't had the same kind of impact on the site that traditional archaeological excavation would have done. So when a site has to be excavated, that's one thing, but where you still want to conduct some kind of an investigation but don't want to have a heavy impact on the site, taking these kinds of small-scale cores can be a key to getting the information that you need anyway, and or at least provides a good foundation for any future research that might be done.
We have many types of archaeological materials and artifact types here at Sustainable Archaeology McMaster. One set of material would be lithics, or stone tools. And we can analyze these with various means, one of which is under a high-powered microscope. And for this particular object, small arrowhead, we can look at reference material, chert, and compare, and it appears that this item was made on a light variant of Haldimand chert. It's like flint. We typically call it chert in this part of the world, and this is what people made spearheads, arrowheads, dart heads from, scrapers, all sorts of cutting tools in a time before and even after metals. This is a rim sherd from an indigenous pot from the early 1600s. This vessel was quite large, and it's decorated at the rim and on the upper body. This is an example, this station, of the sorts of value-added research that we conduct here at Sustainable Archaeology McMaster. There have been several students involved in looking at collections that were collected in the 70s, for example, and earlier on. This particular project is going to be looking at transitions in foodways based on the ceramics between two different sites in the early 1600s. And those turbulent times seem to have translated into changes in pottery production, for example, as well as perhaps foodways. And this is what is going to be looked at in this particular project. It spins off from a grad project recently completed, looking at the same two sites with respect to thin sectioning of ceramics. And so this is a slide of a cross section of a ceramic body sherd, something like this. And that project showed that there were changes in pottery production, possibly teachers and teaching of pot making in the early 1600s. The current project will be looking at changes in food prep and meal production in those pots based on looking at encrustations and perhaps abrasions from stirring. And a future project, we hope, will also use these two sites and take perhaps little scrapings from some of these vessels and look at lipids, what was actually being cooked in these pots, and to also see if we can mark change or see change in other ways during the early 1600s at these two village sites.
Here in the basement of McMaster Innovation Park is Sustainable Archaeology's repository, and in these shelves we have room for about 30,000 boxes worth of material that is able to be used by researchers visiting the facility. One of the things that I do here is prep the collections for future use and for long-term storage. So this is the repository. Thanks for stopping by.